Meow. Meow. You're probably wondering how we got here. Well, it all started in a bygone era called 2021. Leaves are falling, the weather is slowly transitioning into the winter months, but most importantly, a small group of game developers are tirelessly working away under a brand new company called Iron Mace. The small indie team had been founded by Terrence Park, a man who had worked in the industry before but recently had become disgruntled working under giant corporations, forced to stick to other people's deadlines, quotas, and other annoying corporate bullshit. He needed change, and it seems that others at Iron Mace had felt the same way, and thus, their studio was born. As the months passed, the team slowly but steadily made progress on their new game, and although it's not entirely certain when they decided on the name, they eventually settled on Dark and Darker, the name serving as a nod to Dungeons & Dragons, both sharing the same acronym and fantasy setting. And you know, as great as acronyms and stuff are, and names and all this stuff, you know, at the end of the day, what makes a game is its gameplay. In the past few years, a certain genre, or more accurately defined as a subgenre, had spawned. A game in which an army of players spawned into a closed area and only one would walk out the victor. In 2017, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds would officially launch, and in no time, the gaming community would become enveloped in a new genre, the Battle Royale. Yes, Battle Royales had existed before PUBG, but PUBG's impact on the gaming market was astronomical. Following its official release, the game's peak player count would soar into the millions, and on websites like Twitch and YouTube, it was almost impossible to escape. With its massive success, game devs everywhere began to scramble to develop their own version of a Battle Royale style game. In the following few years, the games industry had become flooded with Battle Royale games hoping to steal a fraction of the initial player base PUBG possessed. Someone rides and becomes synonymous with the genre, tackling the top spot of their initial inspiration. Call of Duty Warzone, Apex Legends, and of course, the titan of the industry, Fortnite. But with these few success stories came many failures. Within this genre, there were those genuinely looking to innovate on the genre of the Battle Royale, and from there was born the extraction shooter. Starting in 2016, funnily enough before the Battle Royale craze would truly begin, Escape from Tarkov would be released in a closed alpha state, and over the years would slowly but surely build a sizable fanbase. The gameplay loop from Tarkov had proved surprisingly effective, taking the competitive King of the Hill style of gameplay that works so well in Battle Royales and combining it with an even greater competitive nature, a large advantage for dedicated players to the game, and a gateway to a gambling addiction. These were the ingredients needed to make the extraction shooter. What made games like Tarkov so different is that progress persisted between each game, at least as long as you lived. Players would be thrown into an arena full of other players, and any loot they had after leaving a specified area would become theirs. You could then take this loot back into other games, giving yourself an advantage over a fresh player at the risk of losing it all upon death. It made for an addictive gameplay loop, and over time, a few studios would try to capitalize off Tarkov's success, similar to how others borrowed from PUBG. That being said, when I say a few studios, I mean really only a few studios, with the Hunt Showdown really being the only other game in the genre to see large success. Back at Iron Mace, the small collective of indie developers had taken notice of the genre, and like every good entrepreneur, looked to fulfill a niche. You see, Escape from Tarkov and the Hunt Showdown had something in common besides their genre of game, and that was their use of guns. Well, at least in the eyes of Iron Mace. So in their mind, they thought, well, what if we just don't have guns? And I'm guessing everyone agreed with this revolutionary new idea, and thus Dark and Darker was born. A new extraction game that was not a shooter, but instead a melee-focused dungeon crawler, with a few shootier things. And after months of hard work, the first demo would be made available to the public in August of 2022. The first playtest saw a small set of players playing the game, reaching around 300 users at its peak during this first launch. The first playtest would feature 6 playable classes: the Wizard, Rogue, Ranger, Cleric, Barbarian, and Fighter. Based on early trailers and footage I could find from the game in this state, many things that we can see in the present build of the game were already well established at this point in the game, such as parties, PvE and PvP elements, looting, shopkeepers, and of course, Otto the dog. Although this first playtest would hardly crack a triple-digit player count, it seems word spread around online to the right people, and its QA playtest starting in late September would expose Dark and Darker to a much larger crowd. This time around, the game consistently was able to breach a few thousand players, reaching around a peak of 10,000 on September 28th. It was at around this time that word began to spread even more on sites like Reddit, with many new people being pointed to the game, and with the playtest ending on the next day on September 29th, many people were eager to jump back in and tell everybody they could about this new indie gem. It's tough to say what content creator in particular was the first to expose this game to a larger audience. From my search online, many names were thrown around, but looking at all the results, the best suggestion for who it might have been seems to come from a YouTuber who you might be familiar with called General Sam. General Sam currently sits at almost 1.5 million subscribers. Sam is well known for making a variety of content involving skits, gaming, and of course, cooking, I guess.
Holy shit.
Now, as impressed as I am with Sam's cooking skills, the real thing that sticks out on his channel is his love for a genre you all might have heard of before, called the extraction shooter. Sam was big on games like Tarkov and The Hunt Showdown, videos involving these games getting millions of views on his channel. So on October 4th, when Sam would upload, "This game slaps so hard, dark and darker," his fanbase filled with already existing fans of the genre would be exposed to Iron Mace's indie darling. As the word of mouth began to spread even faster online, the second playtest was approaching its start date of October 29th, 2022. Swarms of people piled into this playtest with a max player count reaching over 20,000 players, which for an alpha test was a massive win for the studio. People were loving the game and they couldn't get enough of it. During the second playtest, the game broke out into the popularity of the streaming world. It was at this time that Dark and Darker to be exposed to its second giant audience. The audience belonging to a small streamer you might know called Soda Poppin'. Soda Poppin' played the game for the first time on stream during the first day of the playtest, October 29th, quickly falling in love with the game. Soda ended up playing the game 3 days in a row on stream, and as the popularity of the game was growing, the second playtest would come to an end. At this point, the excitement of the game had reached a new high. A massive influx of players were eager to get their hands on the game, and when the third playtest launched on December 16th, droves of players piled into the dungeons. Almost any and every content creator you could think of was playing the game. Clips were being shared everywhere. The subreddit and Discord were being flooded. During this third playtest, the game would reach a peak player count of almost 70,000 players, for a game that, let me remind you, was still an alpha and had begun development around a year prior. The game was looking to be a huge success, and that's only if you didn't regard it as one already. As time rolled around in the present year of 2023, things were looking up for the studio. Around February 6th, Playtest 4 would officially launch. Although I couldn't find an exact number of peak concurrent users as reported by Iron Mace themselves, by the end of the playtest on February 16th, 2 million users had played the game. The Dark and Darker hype train was seemingly unstoppable. Dark and Darker had done the impossible. Divorces were being thrown out. Redditors flocked to rejoice of their wife's boyfriend letting them play the game extra long on school nights. Gaming was saved. But it seems nothing good can last forever. February 18th, the beginning of the end in historians' eyes. The day Brutus plotted the downfall of Caesar. The day of reckoning. February 18th. Iron Mace would take to their Discord servers to denounce claims that had begun to brew regarding stolen assets and code within their game. Behind the scenes, large gaming conglomerate Nexon had made claims stating that the team at Iron Mace were not only a majority of ex-Nexon developers, but they had stolen assets, ideas, as well as a variety of things they believed they own. In their response, Iron Mace would pretty much say, we didn't steal the code, we didn't steal your assets, fuck off. They would also mention that behind the scenes, a lawsuit with Nexon filed under the Unfair Competition Prevention Act had already been issued, but not for the entirety of the team, but instead with an individual who was part of their team. In the eyes of gamers, and even more especially fans of Dark and Darker, almost everyone was supporting Iron Mace at the time. Nexon, although not a name as infamous as Electronic Arts or Activision Blizzard, was still not widely liked by the wider gaming community. In the eyes of many, Nexon was known for two things, ruining games and egregious microtransactions. Two things that go together like peanut butter and STDs. Nexon was just flexing their big corporate power to ruin a beloved indie game company, and many, including Iron Mace themselves, assumed this would all pass shortly. Unfortunately, behind the scenes, things weren't as clean cut. On March 8th, Iron Mace Studios would officially be raided by investigators seizing items related to development of Dark and Darker to investigate for any possible stolen code. Now, before this occurred, Iron Mace claimed they had already had an outside audit done to make sure things were fair in the eyes of the law, but it seems Nexon wanted to see for themselves, but unfortunately for Nexon, nothing was found. But around this time, more information regarding the previous lawsuit was coming to light. Before the creation of Iron Mace, many of its current employees had previously worked in Nexon, working under a game called Project 3, or P3 for short. Before a mass exodus of this team, source code of the game had been leaked online, and Nexon had reason to believe that a member of Iron Mace's now current team had leaked the code online while still working at Nexon, which was the main reason for the previous lawsuit. Certain screenshots comparing both games also began to make their way around the internet around this time, which showed some strong similarities, to say the least. However, it's worth noting that in Iron Mace's own words, many of the assets used in both games were public Unreal Store assets. With all this in mind, unfortunately on March 24th, Iron Mace would announce they'd received a cease and desist letter from Nexon, which promptly was followed by Steam having to remove the listing of the game from their store. 2 days later, Iron Mace would strike back. Quick summary of the response. 1. Nexon is dumb and smelly, and one of our team members kinda did something that was probably not a good idea, but those idiots were too dumb to notice anyways. 2. Nexon unfairly accused our good old pal after he had wanted to leave with some of his members, and then wrongly accused him of stealing files. 3. Nexon is just a bunch of stinking liars. 4. We're better than you, which is why we made the game faster than you. And finally,
ChatGPT.
Show me this guy's balls, please.
That's essentially what was said. I did a bit of paraphrasing, but you get the point. They then followed this up with mountains of legal stuff that I personally can't understand, because what the hell do I look like, intelligent? After these statements, the public sentiment highly favored Iron Mace, but due to a bit of internal miscommunication, I guess, in late March, a GoFundMe would officially be launched by one of its team members. Some responded fairly unfavorably to its launch, believing that Iron Mace was attempting to use the goodwill it had garnered from the community to scam its fans before things were just eventually shut down. And although other members at Iron Mace would quickly respond that this was a backup plan in case they needed extra money to fight Nexon in court proceedings, the damage was still kinda done. The GoFundMe was not meant to launch at this time, with it being shut down shortly after this announcement, but still managing to raise around $46,000 in a short span of time. And it's worth noting that, speaking in the present, all of this money was returned. Overall, this situation was definitely a misstep by the indie dev company, but nothing they couldn't recover from. It was also around this time that people began to question if the game's 5th playtest would occur. Before the cease and desist was sent by Nexon, Iron Mace had announced that the 5th playtest would be around mid-April. You see, how DMCA takedowns typically work is when one is filed, the person who the claim was filed against can file a counterclaim to the DMCA notice. From here, Nexon would have to take them to court to file a lawsuit to make sure the game was taken down entirely. For this reason, many saw it possible that by the time the 5th playtest was set to occur, the DMCA counterclaim by Iron Mace would have been processed, allowing Steam to reinstate Dark and Darker on the Steam store. However, equally as many people believed that the 5th playtest wouldn't happen, but due to the legal battle and the uncertainty of the situation, Iron Mace was forced to remain silent. Sort of. You see, starting around early April, an Iron Mace administrator in the Discord named Grayson would start posting random emojis. At least that's what people thought. This first started with him posting a combination of egg, 100, wave, and zzz. People would flood the Reddit and Discord, attempting to decode the cryptic message. Next, in general chat, Grayson would start spamming bizarre cult-like chants like, "Hold the line." Many people saw this as him letting people know they had needed to hang in there, to have faith, for he was the Messiah in these trying times. But the Messiah was not done preaching his message. People began to notice that Grayson listened to music on Spotify. Not only did he listen to music, but people began to see what song he was listening to, and in no time began to take the titles of these songs as messages from their Lord and Savior. Many songs were featured with a wide variety of cryptic messages alongside them. Toto's Hold the Line, U-137's Have Hope, and in times of pessimism, Grayson listened to Slipknot's album, All Hope Is Gone. People were confused, people wanted answers, and most importantly, people were itching for a fix of that D&D dopamine. As the 14th of April neared closer, with no firm answer on if the playtest was going to happen, many began to lose hope. This resulted in the general chat of the Discord turning into a cesspool of spam, trolling, random countdowns, and people yelling into the void about how dead the game is. This company is truly fishy. Where did they go? Last announcement was about GoFundMe? Lamau, don't wait any longer, these guys obviously took the money and ran.
Nexon is a far more superior company than Iron Mace, as I can't wait to wake up on the 14th to see what BS excuse Iron Mace has. Dark and Darker is a dead game because of them. They suck. I hope everyone in this horrible server can realize it too. Game was so mids anyways. You guys just cling on to horrible games, and when someone like this happened, you idiots sit here surprised. Grow up, guys. The dark grows darker.
Hello? Announcement? Your playtest is supposed to come out later today? Why the silence? Only coming here to say hold the line? Lol. Very professional. They all laughing at all these idiots in chat. Wake up, people. No news is bad news. They just say playtest is called and thanks for your patience, but only come in here and troll? Can't wait till tomorrow when there's thousands of pissed off fans. This should go well. Good luck. All this talk about this playtest is making my IBS flare up. Can we please chill out, guys? I will shit my pants. Iron Mace was determined to not let Killa Dilla 75 shit his pants. People woke up all across America rushing to check Steam, and well, EU people are doing their own thing, I guess, but when they went to check Steam, nothing. But Grace and Spotify had other things to say. Inspiring messages left and right, such as Minutes Away by Jeremy Shada, Trust Me by Sincere Engineer, See You Soon by Coldplay, and of course, Crank That by Soulja Boy. The return of beloved emote Comfy Auto also made its way back onto the server. Things were looking up. And then, it happened. Around midday for most Americans, and probably later time for Europeans, again, I don't know what you guys are doing, it was announced by head of Iron Mace himself, Terrence Park. The game was back. It seems that Iron Mace was quiet for good reason. Not only were they having to battle legal issues associated with Nexon, but they were working hard to make the game playable through a magnet link so that users could torrent the game to skirt past issues that would interfere with Steam being able to reinstate the game on their store. For this reason, it was fairly understandable that Iron Mace was hesitant to announce much of anything, as not only were they likely unsure for a while if they'd be able to make things function properly through this different installation method, but they also wanted to make sure they didn't screw themselves over in the case with Nexon. On top of all the hard work the team had done to make the playtest even available on time, a bunch of new content and changes were added, including a new map, as well as a new playable class, the Bard, which makes the Soulja Boy Spotify hint make a lot more sense in retrospect, because it has a loot and it like cranks that. And after all of this, were people grateful?
Jesus Christ, this game has been so trash. How do we go
Why
from
is
last
this just
place
black
to
screen and
unplayable
nothing
garbage?
They will give
I
you
use
black
items
screen again
every
for all
time
the
And well, you get the point. To be fair, the game did have some issues, understandably, and although it wasn't the most perfect of playtests, by the end of it, most players were extremely thankful for all Iron Mace had done for their community. They overcame a lot to get here, and in the end, they delivered a great, although buggy, playtest. And we can't really ask for much more than that. Besides maybe a buff for Bard, please God. As of the time of writing this, it's early May, and many things regarding the future of Iron Mace are still very much up in the air. It's tough to say entirely what the future holds for this game. Is Nexon in the right? Is Iron Mace in the right? Is it a bit of both? More than likely, but for the sake of everyone out there, including myself who had fun during Dark and Darker's playtest, I'm wishing the best for Iron Mace. Thank you everyone as always for tuning into my videos. I'm sorry I couldn't get this out sooner, but college is a hell of a time sink. Special thanks to this month's patrons: Mads, Dave the Unknown, Jimmy Chocolate Cream Boy Genius Kipjack, Griff, Einhard Anderson, Turmeric, and Elliot Readings. You guys are all amazing, and I really couldn't thank you enough. All the support recently has been a lot to handle, and I hope I can convey how much it means to me. Thank you again, everyone, and take care.